Hey everybody, Brandon here with ADHD Game Dev. I literally almost forgot the name of my channel right there, which is why I stumbled for a second. So I had somebody asking me yesterday if Game Maker was easy to learn, and I also had some comments of people talking about difficulties in learning to code. I wanted to try to tackle this whole thing in one great big stream of consciousness here. So let's just chit chat for a minute and discuss under the framework of can you learn to code and is it hard to do? So I will not give you the trite answer of you can do it. Yeah, you can do it. For all I know, you might not have the mindset for it. It's entirely possible that it's just not your cup of tea. That's fine, okay? So is it hard? Can you learn it? Yeah, you can. So a game engine, like whether it's Unity or Godot or Game Maker, all these engines are made by people who are way smart. They're into computer software and computer programming and things like that, and they make an engine so that it will be easier for you, but it's never going to be easy, okay? It's never, ever easy. Getting into game dev is a tedious hobby. It is hard to get into. It is difficult. There's a huge learning curve to it. I will say that it depends on how big that mountain is that you have to climb, and it's going to be different. Unreal, for example, is an incredible engine, but people know that, first of all, it's a huge flip and download. It takes a lot of computer processing power, but it takes a lot of processing power from your brain too. It's just a bigger hill to climb. Other engines are going to have a smaller hill to climb, and it really depends on which one speaks to you. I was just talking to somebody else and said, look, I got into Game Maker. I don't even know how. I don't even know why, but I Game Maker is the one I got into, and it had their drag and drop graphical coding system, and I was doing that as just visual graphical blocks until I started feeling limited by that, and I needed to take the training wheels off and start to learn code. So it made that an easier process for me to get into. But game dev is always going to be tedious, and it has a huge front end learning curve to it. Is it as hard as learning a foreign language? No, but it is kind of a foreign language. What you're needing to do is to learn all the terms that the software has available to it. So you're not learning all of the code. You just need to learn enough for you to get done what you're trying to. And it's not written in computer symbols and code, like mathematics codes and stuff like that. It's written in English. You just need to learn the way that they format it. In different coding languages, after you kind of get your head around the logic of the coding language and the structure of logical thinking, the way that a computer thinks, then you kind of start to understand things and you start to have these click kind of a moments that start to happen in your head. And so this impossible to climb hill kind of goes, oh, wait a minute, that wasn't that bad. So yeah, when you first get into it, you're going to feel this resistance, really big resistance, because you don't know anything and you're pushing up against this massive unknown. You don't know how big of a problem it is. And after you start to make a little headway, you start to go, oh, wait a minute. And you start to kind of have these clicks in your head and you start to realize that it's not that bad. After you get over the hump, you're going to spend a lot of your time just improving your skills and getting better at what you're doing. But yeah, getting into it is really tough, especially when your brain wanders like, an ADHDers does, and you want to see quick results, you want to see fast results. So I think maybe the graphical drag and drop is probably rewarding. But let me switch gears real fast to answer the other direct question, can you learn to code? I want to talk to you real fast about the logic of it, because game dev is for logical, nerdy kind of people. If it's just not your thing, like if you're somebody who just likes playing sports outside, probably not the sort of thing you're into. If you like 3D printers, if you like puzzles, if you like video games, if you don't mind getting in there and sticking through a problem that seems like it's never going to break through and getting through it until it does, then game dev is in the right ballpark. I'd say it's about as hard as, say, maybe algebra, but it's not advanced mathematics. Calculus or whatever. So let me ask you real quick, logical kind of a concept or some examples and see if they click for you, see if they make sense to you. If you say, when I push the button, I want to fire a bullet. Okay, what does that mean to the game? You have to create a bullet object and then tell the object to have speed. In Game Maker, that is called H speed, horizontal speed. So you give it H speed. Which direction, left or right? right? Right, if you're in the platformer. So going to the right is increasing that X speed, X direction. X goes to the right and Y goes up and down. So you start in the top right of the screen at 0, 0, and the bottom right is 1920 by 1080. So your logical way to do that is to take that bullet and start moving across the screen to the right, which is to increase its X value. And in Game Maker, it also has an idea of speed. In Unity, you'd be in a vector 3 concept. If it was in a 3D space, it's called a vector 3. This is the sort of thing that you would learn. It's like, what are you saying? This is gobbledygook. Well, of course it's gobbledygook. You haven't learned it yet, right? But as you learn, you start to chain things together. For example, chaining code and building code and making it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The logical steps to that is you push the button you want to fire. Okay, do you want to fire like, because no, that's not what I meant. I meant when you press the button to fire. Okay, well, now you have to talk to the computer in the way that it understands. You have to learn its language. You didn't mean on the button being held down. You meant only when it is pressed. Well, there's a term for that in whatever software you're using. There was a term to say just in that initial click. Now you start to realize that a button has multiple states. When it is being pressed down the first time, when it is being held down, and when it is being released. It could be any of those things. Does it make sense to fire when you release? Click, fire. No, that's going to feel bad to the player. So you learn that what you really meant to say is on button press, when it was first pressed, not held. That's the kind of logic you have to get into. And then you're going to ask the question, did you mean to just keep shooting forever? Bang, 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 over and over again? Well, no, I wanted to have ammo. Okay, well, what you meant is ammo. So now you're going to say, if ammo is greater than 0, then bang, create a bullet, and at the same time, reduce ammo by 1. And those things need to go together into one statement. If I press the button, and if I have ammo, then create a bullet and reduce the ammo. That's coding logic. Does that make sense to you, what I just said? I know I wasn't drawing it out, and we weren't looking at a specific coding concept, but does that make sense? Okay, if it does, then you're in the right ballpark. What happens is that we start expanding on that a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further, and we add to it. And by the time you're done, your code is this long, squiggly thing. So I'll leave myself notes along the way, because it gets confusing, it gets deep, it gets tangled, and you've got steps and steps and steps and steps and steps, because I want to have a moment where the player might not be allowed to fire at all. They have a reload state, or they have a cooldown state, or something like that. So yeah, there's lots of conditions that you add to start to build up your game into simple steps, into greater complexity until it grows into something bigger. So can you learn it? Yes, but you need to learn those individual steps. There's a whole language to learn. And the question that I have for you is, do you first of all have that logical kind of a mind that what I just talked about makes sense to you? And are you willing to get in there and just keep at it? And yes, recognize that there is a huge wall of resistance of not knowing what you're doing, and it can be frustrating at the start. Okay, there will be a breakthrough if you keep on pressing, but you've got to have the kind of mind that says, I'm going to figure it out, I'm going to keep on at it without somebody handing me the answer, because a lot of times people can't hand you the answer. You're writing your own video game. Okay, even a chat GPT or some AI tool is going to give you a weird answer that might even be wrong. And if you ask people on the internet all the time, then you're not putting in the work that you need to figure out things on your own. You have to have an independent mind that says, I'm going to try to figure it out on my own. I'm going to try it and see what happens. And that's what you do a lot of times in computer code. Try it and see what happens. Get a result on screen. And if it's not the result that you expected, then you make modifications and you try it again and see what happens after that. Anyway, I hope that really helped you. I hope that makes sense to you. If it does, I talk about video game creation and programming and ADHD, and I talk about games I'm working on, and maybe you can learn from my struggles. Anyway, so that is an invitation to subscribe if you want to. I'd appreciate having you here. But anyway, I hope you have a great day today, and be awesome.